Welcome back to the Holistic Homes Podcast. I'm Christine, licensed general contractor here in Southern California and construction consultant nationwide, helping you build a healthier home that's mold safe and not going to make your family sick. And today I want to share about a very big topic I get asked about all the time. I even had a course completely dedicated to this topic, but today I'm just going to pull back the curtain and give you everything as it relates to bathrooms. Bathrooms are a hot topic, just like kitchens. It seems like bathrooms go through a lot of mold remediations, and that bathrooms often tend to be the culprit behind the biggest leaks and wood rot and deterioration, and the biggest culprit when it comes to hidden leaks that nobody knew about until that bathroom renovation one day. So as we always do, we emphasize new construction. That is where we can really dial things in. But I do want to also share some renovation stuff along the way, because you can renovate a bathroom that can be healthy as well. So I'm going to give you the path to both and really share some big considerations that I often see just completely missed, and people reaching out after the fact of like, oh, darn, I wish I would have known this when I was going through my new build or a bathroom. So let's start this off in a demo phase. For anyone going through a bathroom renovation or remodel, maybe as the result of a mold remediation, and you find yourself in the stage of renovating your bathroom, what should you do first? So the first thing that takes place in a bathroom remodel is post-remediation clearance. I'll just make the assumption that there was some form of mold inspection that then led to a mold remediation. Our involvement in any project does not begin until there's something called post-remediation clearance. That means everything related to the mold, why it was there, what's the root cause, all of that has been addressed, and you now have a green light to proceed with rebuilding. Anything prior to that, you're not even ready for construction. You do not want to go through a mold remediation and then a renovation to then determine that the mold was not properly remediated, it's still there, and now you have a fully renovated bathroom. So to prevent that, that's where we really like to see this post-remediation clearance. Your mold inspector will definitely have more information about that, but that's usually where this rebuild phase starts from there. So after you have clearance, you addressed root cause, the mold's been corrected, and you're rebuilding, you first want to address any of the existing framing. So the subfloor, any framing in the walls, you want to make sure that they are actually dry enough to proceed with rebuilding. And so taking moisture meter readings, this is something that you can do yourself or your contractor, anyone can take a moisture reading with a pinned moisture meter to determine subfloor moisture content and framing moisture content. There is a tolerable range here. Most KD lumber, which is kiln dried lumber, is somewhere around 15%. There's also a tolerance. You don't want things bone dry to where the framing is cracking. And so we usually see somewhere, I would say between 8 and 15% moisture content. Your moisture meter will actually start to signal that it's really high once it gets like over 20% plus moisture content in the framing, because you don't want to be covering up wet building materials anyways. And then next in this preparation stage would be related to a concrete slab. So the name of the game at this stage is to collect data about the moisture content of the materials so that you can proceed with closing things up. So if it's framing or a subfloor, you have a pinned moisture meter. If it's a concrete slab or a basement floor, there needs to be a moisture reading of that as well. And that often comes in the form of a calcium chloride test. And that is a test, again, you or your contractor can do it. And it's going to give you a reading for the pounds of moisture that are being emitted over a period of time. And there's tolerable ranges with that as well. The lower, the better. There is an ASTM standard that outlines 3 pounds of moisture as the allowable limit. And I see most flooring manufacturers often go above that, but bathrooms shouldn't have plank flooring in it anyways. And so we usually see a tile flooring go down. Even with a tile flooring, you need to know the moisture content of your slab or that basement foundation before any flooring or waterproofing goes down. Okay, so now that you've done this prep stage, you've got information on any post-remediation clearance, and you've done your due diligence to check moisture content, now you got to know what the design is. You might be removing and replacing exactly what was there. You might be in the early design development stages of your dream bathroom. And so here's some considerations. The biggest one is going to be related to the drain in your shower. Assuming a shower here because a tub drain location doesn't change. It's going to be where the tub says that drain's going to be. When it comes to a standing shower, you typically have options with your drain location. And there's things to be considered with the 2 options. One being a center drain. That's what you see in just about every home. It's a circular or square center drain in the middle of the shower, or there's a linear drain. It's going to depend on the type of flooring that you are putting down. That's going to dictate what type of drain makes most sense. So if you are opting for larger format tiles, which we often use, is like an exterior rated, so it's got slip resistancy, an exterior rated large format tile. It doesn't make a ton of sense to use that large tile and then chop it up for a center drain, because you're going to need to get slope to wherever the drain is located. Now, if you are saying, I really love smaller tiles, then a center drain could work really well because it's easier to get that to slope. So with a linear drain, that is sheet flowing, meaning all of the water is flowing to that linear drain. And then it also has slope on the backside of it. I've seen a couple images of linear drains that are really, really close to the walls of the shower. And that's just not great design, because a linear drain should have sloping from the back and sloping from the front. So we don't want to just be running all of this water towards the shower walls. Linear drains have a lot of maintenance. They're beautiful. They work great with large tiles. They get really disgusting. Like within 2 weeks, they need to be cleaned. If you have a piece of tile on the top of that drain, or it's a metal grate on the top of that drain, you need to take that up and you need to clean out that drain. Typically every 2 weeks, or at least once every 30 days. So clean it out, because you're gonna see like a biofilm on that drain, and it's not something that you want hanging around. So know the maintenance with different types of drains as well. And then aside from the drain, once you've thought through tile selection and where the drain is going to be located, then comes the critical stage of waterproofing. What is going to be used to waterproof that shower? Interestingly enough, that shower that you're building is going to likely see more water than the exterior of your home. Depending on the region you live in, you might be in a rainy Seattle region, but most showers see more water than exterior walls of the home because of how often it is used. And so the waterproofing strategy is critical. Now, you're gonna definitely be wondering, what is the best waterproofing for a shower? And my answer is going to be the one that your installer can install to perfection. And that should be the baseline. Don't start with being the guinea pig. Start by asking the contractor, what do you use as your tried and true waterproofing method? What are they using on every single job? It might not be something that you want to use. It might be something like a more traditional way of using hot mop and red guard, like a fluid applied waterproofing membrane. You might not want hot mop as the waterproofing in your shower. It's liquid asphalt, but that might be the only thing that your contractor has familiarity with. So consider asking what other methods they're familiar with. Have they used something like a Schluter or a sheet membrane shower? If they tell you no, you might want to proceed with caution if pushing them in a direction of something other than what they are most familiar with. That's probably not the greatest thing to hear, but it's the truth. You can use any type of waterproofing, there's going to be toxicity concerns and performance concerns with most everything, aside from doing like a sheet membrane. If your contractor or the subcontractors are not familiar with it, that's likely to lead in the worst case scenario, which is it would actually leak. So start with a baseline of what does the contractor actually know and what are they using on every project. Then, if you want to opt for something like a Schluter, which is a very common and well-known waterproofing membrane instead of a fluid applied membrane, then the next question would be, is the Schluter installer a certified Schluter installer? Schluter's website does offer programs to train subcontractors on how to properly install the membrane. So that would be the next question, is if they're familiar with something like Schluter, is it going to be installed by an approved installer? That would be the ideal scenario. And that gets you through waterproofing. The concerns with fluid applied and other methods of waterproofing is that any fluid applied is going to have a toxicity component to it. Some are better than others, but the most traditional way of waterproofing shower floor is hot mop. And as I shared, that's liquid asphalt, and it's going to have off-gassing. It seems to be shortened, but truthfully, nobody knows how long the off-gassing really is. So the best approach is going to be sheet applied waterproofing if it is installed to perfection. The other thing that might be a perspective shift for you on the waterproofing of your shower is the concept of the tile selection having an impact on the waterproofing, and that's just not the case. So in theory, you should be able to waterproof your shower and then stand in there and take a shower and it not be a problem because the waterproofing is doing its job. The tile that goes on top of it is a maintenance question, not always a waterproofing question. So if you fall in love with small little penny round tiles for the shower floor, that's great. That's not going to mean that your shower is any less more waterproof than a shower that has larger format tiles. But the big difference between the two is going to be your maintenance, because with more smaller pieces, that means you have more grout to maintain and clean and seal and stay on top of. If you have larger tiles, you're going to have less grout and less maintenance. So the tile selection comes down to a maintenance question. There's going to be different performance as well when it comes to man-made materials versus natural stone like a marble and some quartzite materials. There's different performance considerations as well, but not necessarily the waterproofing topic. Because again, just like on the exterior of your home, your shower should be waterproofed at the waterproofing layer. The best waterproofing is going to be the one that your contractor can install to perfection. And like with everything, it needs to be water tested. And surprisingly, your shower pan is the only area of your home that is required to have a leak test. I jokingly say it's quite wild that there's only one area of your home that's required to be leak tested. Meanwhile, all of those windows don't have a requirement, but they often leak. So our golden rule is we leak test everything: shower pans, windows, roofs, everything, so that you as a homeowner can actually have peace of mind that something is not leaking during construction. But back to the bathroom topic of leak testing the shower pan. So this is a standard code requirement. It needs a 24-hour leak test, meaning that if you have a shower with a curb, it gets plugged where the drain is and filled up to the curb with water. Then from there, it sits. The plug stays in place, the water is sitting in that shower pan, and it sits for 24 hours. There's usually a mark on the wall of where the water level is to see if the water drops at all. Ideally, that is a prolonged test than just 24 hours. And truthfully, on the construction side, nobody's really starting and stopping a clock in most cases, because the city inspector is just coming out for their inspection. The city inspector is not coming out to watch the shower get filled and then coming back 24 hours later to watch that. They are entrusting the contractor to manage all of that. And so the longer the test of your shower pan, the better. If it can sit for 2 days, 3 days and there's no evidence of leaking, that seems a whole lot better than a 12 or 24-hour test. So test the shower pan, test the shower walls. Don't rush this process because you can't undo this after tile and flooring start to go in. So thoroughly test the walls and the shower pan. Additionally, every floor in a bathroom should have waterproofing. A big failure area is second level bathrooms, which is a plywood or an OSB subfloor, and contractors just putting tile right on top of that. That is not a water resistant material below it. And so it should have some sort of membrane or waterproofing anywhere that there is tile. Bathrooms are considered wet rooms. They have really high humidity. They've got kids splashing and little wet feet coming outside of the shower in the tub. And so any tile within a bathroom should have waterproofing behind it. Flooring, walls, even any tile outside of the shower or tub area, if there is tile, it should be able to get wet, which brings me to another point of tiling outside of just the tub and shower areas. The theme of a healthy, robust bathroom is that it can handle all water. It is a wet zone, that water outside of just the contained shower or tub area should not be causing damage. So waterproofing inside the shower, outside of the shower, and if there's going to be any tile on the walls, which I'm a big fan of, because we also have to think through the lens of where are we going to be hanging wet towels? Where are we going to be splashing at the vanity? Where is there going to be robe hooks or anything that's going to be hung on the walls that might be wet? And so considering tile outside of the tub and shower areas, we'll often do what's called a wainscoting of tile, which is from the floor, 42 inches up of tile along the walls, so that you're not concerned about water when it comes to the lower portion of the walls, which, if you can imagine, the tile on the walls also acts as your baseboards. So instead of having MDF baseboards in a bathroom, which is a big no-no in creating a healthy, robust bathroom, but if you can create baseboards that are made out of stone or tile or something far more robust than just particle board, then that's another area that it's not going to be prone to water damage, because tile can handle water much better than MDF baseboards. So you have a waterproof shower, you have waterproofing outside of the tub and shower areas, you have waterproofing and water resistant materials on the lower half of the walls. The more tile, the better. And then next would be anything that is going into this bathroom. So bathrooms, notoriously humid areas, they are not storage areas for things like wicker baskets and a bunch of toiletries under your cabinetry where you wouldn't see a leak, and things for storing a bunch of toilet paper. Your bathroom is a very humid area, and so there shouldn't be toiletries left in cardboard boxes underneath your bathroom sink. If there is a leak under that bathroom sink, you want to see it, and you don't want it damaging the vanity itself or slowly dripping on whatever's being stored under there. So bathrooms are dedicated wet rooms. Everything in there should be able to handle high humidity, and everything in there should be able to handle some moisture. And if not, it should be stored in another cabinet, or at least not underneath the vanity itself. Then on the last topic of building a robust bathroom, one of my favorite things to consider is the walls. So if you are saying, well, I love the idea of tile, but Christine, it's far more costly than just doing drywall, that is correct. And so the solution to that is opting for a more robust drywall. Instead of just paper-faced drywall, you can opt for something that's more water resistant. The code compliant way of going about this is something called green board, which is water resistant drywall, but it's still paper-faced drywall. So green board is paper-faced drywall with a fungal inhibitor applied to it. It's still going to potentially have some water damage. It's not water resistant. it is going to inhibit mold growth just from the fungal inhibitor applied to it. But it's not a mold resistant material by any means. So the way that we work around the high cost of doing tile everywhere and not wanting to use the green board is we use something called an interior glass mat. This is another form of gypsum wallboard. It's still a drywall material, but instead of paper, it has no paper at all. No paper, no cardboard. In its place, it has a fiberglass face on the front and back side of this wallboard. And it comes in the same 1/2 inch or 5/8, like any other typical drywall. Can be mudded, taped, textured, all of that, just like any other drywall. It is going to be more costly, typically at least 2 times the cost of a drywall that you could pick up at a hardware store, but it's not going to be as costly as doing tile everywhere. So really the name of the game for bathrooms, if you are doing a renovation, is clearance, clearance, clearance. Do not build anything back if you are not ready, and that whatever the issue was to begin with, if it hasn't been completely resolved. So get clearance and then do your due diligence and testing on moisture levels before any rebuilding, and then rebuild in a smart and healthy, robust way. Everything in that bathroom should handle water, and leak test everything. If you are concerned about water, test it to make sure that it's not leaking, and then be mindful of it being a very humid area, and monitor whatever you have under the bathroom sink and use materials that are truly like moisture resistant, not just adding fungal inhibitors or using materials that will not stand up to any sort of water like an MDF baseboard. So bathrooms are a very big topic and quite unique depending on your layout. So as always, we have a link below that you can share with me about your project, see if it's something that we can work together on. And if you like more of this type of content, please like and subscribe below so that you can get notified about any episodes that we publish. Every week we're putting out a new episode, and I look forward to creating more content just like this.